Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. The topic for today is community outreach, and we have with us one of the best community outreach coordinators you're ever going to find. He's an all-around good guy, and he's a local celebrity. I'm sure you recognize his name if you are from the Toledo area. It is Tom Cole, formerly of BCSN. And among many, many other things that he's currently active with, he is the community outreach coordinator for the Taylor Automotive Group. Tom has done over 10,000 interviews. He's interviewed most college coaches, obviously a swarm of athletes, and he's just an all-around good guy. And we hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as we did producing it. So without further ado, welcome to this week's episode of Talk Exchange with Tom Cole. Make it look good. All right. And we're on.
Takes a lot of work for us. Hi, I'm Tracey Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club. Thanks for tuning in to Talk Exchange. Today, in this particular episode, I'm joined by our communications director, Kristie Linda. Hi, Kristie.
Hello, Tracey. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I rushed in here like you did. It's such a busy, full life. You know, I was thinking it's a busy time, but really every time is a busy time anymore. There's always so much going on.
True.
But it's fun and it's exciting. And I always like landing here and just, sitting down with you and talking to our guests that we bring on to feature. And I'm excited about our guest today, because he has such a big heart for so many organizations, for the city we're in and beyond. And he has that type of persona where he makes everybody feel like they're important. Mm-hmm. He's really good at showing people that they make a difference and that they matter. And I love that about Tom Cole, who is the community outreach coordinator for the Taylor Automotive family. Hi, Tom. Welcome.
Tracey, thanks so much. It's great to be with you and Kristie and Brad, and congratulations on all the great work that the Exchange Club does. I know familiar with a lot of it, and you should be very proud.
Well, thank you. And, our values align so well with what you do because, of course, The National Exchange Club is a community service group, part of the community service industry. And we have clubs across the country and in Puerto Rico. And you're very familiar. In fact, you live community service every day. And just knowing what I know about you and what our audience today is going to learn about you, we're excited to learn about what brought you to this place, given your background and your varied interests and passions, how you came to really be such a part of the community, and any advice you'd have for people who want to get involved in their community. So it's great.
That's an interesting opening statement. I'll tell you, I like that. My career has really been dumb luck, and that's true. I taught, and I was privileged to teach and coach for 30 years, high school and college, history, English, and later I taught media and broadcasting. Still doing that, but so I was a coach, and I was out at St. John's Jesuit during a span, and Buckeye came out to the practice field and talked to, this is pre-BCSN, and talked to our head coach, a fellow named Fred Beyer, who's a great guy, incredible guy. And they said, hey, we're doing a Buckeye game of the week, one game and football, and would you like to be the color commentary person on it? And Fred he's a great coach, great teacher, but he wasn't a media guy. He wanted no part of that. And he said, well, not really. But I said, I've got a guy on my staff who, he might be okay. So Fred recommended me, and I did the Buckeye Game of the Week for 6 years with Bill Clark on the network. And it was fine, and it was great experience. I'd never done that before. And my mom had always taught me, as a pretty smart woman, she said, whenever somebody offers you a career opportunity, say yes. The worst thing that can happen, and it's not really the worst, you learn things about yourself. You learn that maybe it's not for you, or the best thing that happens is you learn, hey, I can do this, and it's great, and it's a career. So I said yes, and we did that for 6 years. And then Alan Block got the incredible idea of doing BCSN, a 24-hour sports network locally. Can't be done. I mean, there's no one else in the country doing it, and there's a reason for that. It can't be done. but he didn't take no for an answer. He went around the community, talked to every person in media in town, 13, 11, 24, 36, the whole 9 years. He said, what do you think? And they all told him exactly the same thing. They said it would be the Titanic of television. They said that there's not enough local talent to make it happen, and you couldn't financially work it out. Well, almost 20 years later, January 14th or January 2014, January will be 20 years for BCSN.
Awesome.
And yeah, 20 years. It's unbelievable what it's done for teachers and coaches. But I jumped ahead a little bit when I was doing the Buckeye game. Alan came up with his BCSN idea, and Buckeye came to me and they said, well, you're here, you're doing a game a week. You're not terrible. Do you want to do, I'm being honest here. Said, you're not terrible. Do you want to do BCSN? And I remember what my mom said again. I said, yes. And it turned into 20 years. And I just retired from BCSN, did my last interview last week with Coach Ed Heinzel at St. John's. It was a little bit of symmetry there because he was my first interview 20 years ago. And I thought I'd end with him as the last one. And so it's been an incredible, I've done 10,000 interviews. And I've been privileged to interview people that were, Gloria Steinem, Alice Cooper, you name any coach, big coach in college football. I've been privileged to interview them. You learn a lot about people when you interview somebody, as you ladies do. You're doing it now, when you sit down with somebody in an interview, and I guarantee you know a little something about them, not just the X and the O's, but you know what they're like as a person. I don't know, I'm not smart enough to understand it, and I'm sure Brad knows it, but the camera does something, and it reveals who you are. If you're authentic and real, that comes across. If you're fake or phony, that comes across. The camera is a unique thing. It reveals a lot. And so when I was retiring from BCSN, the first time, I've retired twice from BCSN. The first time, Steve Taylor called me and said, because I had done the community work for Buckeye, and I'd met Tracey during that when we did all the events that we did with the old Newsboys. Tracey's incredible with the old Newsboys. I mean, it's one of the great organizations in the history of the city of Toledo. The good that you do is just so far off the charts, it's not even measurable. But Steve said, you're leaving BCSN, you want to come to Taylor? And I thought, well, I could sell, I guess you wanted me to sell cars. I've never done it. And, but
why not?
But I remember what my mom said. Yeah. And I know a few people in town, and they don't hate me, I don't think. And so I said, maybe that would work. And Steve, when he brought me in, he says, no. He said, you're not selling cars. What I want you to do is I want you to go out in the community every day and find things that Taylor can support and Taylor can back in the community every day. And oh my gosh, what he and his father have done, what it's meant in this community, had nothing to do with me, but what they've done in this community is incredible. We just received an award yesterday, and I don't mean this in a braggadocio way, but it was the University of Toledo Family Business Department. It's called the Do Right Spotlight, and they recognized 3 businesses in town that are doing right. They feel in the community. We just got the awards yesterday, and it was a wonderful event. And but Steve Taylor is the heart and soul. The good that's done at Taylor, it begins and ends with Steve Taylor. He's the heart and soul of it. And but we've just been privileged to help so many people. And one thing about, and Tracey, I don't know if you agree with this, but if we get more organizations, Kristie, to help folks in the community, you can help somebody right away in an organization. Yes. Government's great, but you get all the red tape and the things they can do and they can't do. And by the time you get the money to help the thing, they're out of business, or somebody is, it didn't work out. So, but businesses or organizations can step in and say, what do you need? Okay, here it is tomorrow. And so I think the more organizations and the more businesses that we can get lifting people in our community and across the country, will make all the difference.
Well, you're right about that. And we many times say that there are plenty of things that government can't or shouldn't do. And that's where community
Right.
service groups come in.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. So many things are going through my mind right now because I want to know more about Steve Taylor and how his family became to be so
Yeah.
generous. In fact, through you and the Taylor Automotive family, you sponsored one of our local events here recently, the Exchange Club of Toledo's wine tasting
Right.
for the benefit of youth scholarships. So that again is money you're putting to work in the community for a good cause. So we thank you for that. It made me think though, Kristie, and you were probably thinking the same thing. So, Tom, your life of service really has always been a life of service from coaching, which is very much serving students, serving
Right.
the school, serving those kids. I have early memories of BCSN when it started. And can you imagine what all those people thought who predicted it was the Titanic and how it took off?
Yeah.
And people like
Well,
me, sports parents embraced it. My son at the time was a, 10-year-old swimmer in Perrysburg. And I remember BCSN coming to the swimming pool to record these little kids. And it was the highlight of their life and their family's life and their community to see them. So what a way to serve a community. And now you've just kept paying it forward in terms of that. It's super cool.
Yeah, you're proof
Thank you.
positive, really. And when you talk about your collaborations with the old newsboys and some of the things you've done with us, that the collaboration model is where it is. That's where the community service really happens and the impact is made. So I think you're right, absolutely, Tom, that businesses coupling together, nonprofits and other organizations, that's how you help people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is, and you both make salient points, and I think that what we've done at Taylor, and again, it's not a bragging thing. I'm just kind of explaining what we've done, but I think it's somewhat esoteric in that it's personal touch.
Yes.
You can write checks to people, and that's great, but and I know the money helps and all that, but you just write the check and you give it and you go away, and that's it. That's the end of the relationship. We have tended what we've done over the last 6 years since we started this endeavor, and Steve's hired 3 more community outreach folks. Terry Crosby, who's a local legend in our community, one of the greatest two-sport athletes that ever played the city of Toledo. DeVilbiss, the star at Tennessee, played professionally in Europe for 13 years. He's an incredible guy, big heart, just a remarkable man. And he's doing the same thing in the community I am. We've hired Mary Helen Dara. I don't even know her in Sylvania. She's kind of the queen of Sylvania. She's everywhere, doing everything, and she's going to start a new segment on. We have our own TV station at Taylor, which is another thing that we did, and it costs nothing. I mean, it really is. It's. I'm sure that Brad has his camera set up is the same thing that we have. Just a, there's a little small camera on a little, stabilizer, and that's it. I interviewed a movie producer, kind of famous guy one time, and he said to me, everybody I know in 10 years is going to be a movie producer. And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, and he pulls his phone out, his iPhone, and he hands it to me. He said, the camera in this phone is as good as any camera that I use on production set. And you know what? He's not wrong. I mean, I went to the college championship game for BCSN as a promotional thing. My wife and I did 4 years ago. It was Georgia and Alabama in Atlanta. And my wife has never been a photog in her life. And they asked her, we need some interview film from the game. I gave my wife my iPhone. She's much more talented than I am, by the way, but gave her the iPhone, and she's never shot anything like that in her life. Shot all the interviews from the iPhone, downloaded it to BCSN, and it was on TV that night. So everybody can be their own TV station. An organization, you've got your own TV station right there. And you both know this, and I'm sure Brad knows it. Facebook is the most, social media gets dinged left and right. And I get all the problems associated with social media. I teach a media class and a broadcast class. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it is one heck of a powerful medium to get a message out, just like you're doing with your broadcast. It costs literally nothing. You reach people. I read somewhere where 85% of every economic decision that's made in the United States, from a buying or joining or any kind of decision, is made through Facebook.
Wow.
So,
I do
you know,
too.
these are vehicles that organizations and businesses can use that don't cost them anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody can be their own TV station. And what Taylor used to do is they'd spend millions in a year on TV advertising, radio advertising, print advertising. And Steve said, you know, I'm not going to do it anymore. So he stopped doing it.
Mhm.
Millions, stopped doing it. And he said, now I'm going to hire these community ambassadors to go out and try to find every day something good that we can do, somebody that we can help. But he said, but we're going to do it with a personal touch. It's not going to be just writing a check and handing it to somebody, which it ends up being
Sure.
that. But there has to be a personal involvement, where we are invested in a relationship with that organization, with that company, with that person. And I'm telling you, the return on that has been, Taylor's never done better. And they've given up millions of dollars in advertising. So, you know, personal touch, caring about folks, trying to do the right thing, creating relationships. Those are the most powerful things. And you've got them all, you know, you can have your own TV station, just like you're doing
Yes.
now. You know, it's powerful. It's extremely powerful.
We spend a lot of time working with our clubs and our leaders to explain to them the power of Facebook.
Yes.
Specifically for our audience. Facebook is definitely the most powerful platform we have. But I think what it really comes down to is putting that caring out
Yes.
through social media. We always tell them, be genuine. Let people know that you're really doing this because you
Yes.
care. And that's what I'm hearing in your personal touch. Sometimes people just need to know that they're heard, that people care about them and their
Right.
struggles. And it's not always just about the check.
Right. Right. No, Kristie, that's a salient point. It's an old coaching aphorism, but it's true. Kids never cared what you knew as a coach as far as the X and O's until they knew that you cared about them. Once they learned you cared about them, then you could teach any play or any formation. And the same thing's true with a teacher, or same thing is true with a business owner. If your employees know that you care, then they will do things for you. I mean, they will be loyal, they will work for you, they will support you. Knowing that you truly care is a powerful, powerful device, and it has to be
Sure.
authentic. You know, you can't fake that. And but if you learn that and you do it, you know, you're going to be tremendously successful.
Yeah, my favorite thing, honestly, about community service is that people wear their hearts on their sleeves. You get to see who they
Right.
are, you know, what this project means to them, because there's so
Right.
much that you can get for yourself, so much return by helping someone else.
Well, I'll give you ladies an example of how this works. I had a young man reach out to me. I had an adult reach out. First of all, when people know you're trying to do good things, they do a lot of the work for you. They reach out to you with their stories. So this gentleman reached out to me and said he had a young man that he was trying to mentor. He only had a mother. His dad was unknown to him. His mom, I think he was 17, I want to say. And this was just recent. I mean, not that long ago. And his mom just left him and went to
Oh,
Florida. So here, the young man's left on his own at 17. He was taking courses to finish up at Penta, which is a great organization. He was learning skills, and the gentleman was from Penta who had reached out to me, and he said this young man is taking a bus to Jimmy John's, and he works like 12 hours, or he takes Uber to Jimmy John's, works 12 hours, gets Uber home. You know, they're not paying, you know, top wages there. So the Uber was taking half of his money. And here he is trying to finish up his degree. He's working every day, Ubering, no car. And like half of his wages are gone on the Ubers. This youngster's working so hard, trying to do the right things, left alone. And I said to the gentleman, absolutely, we're going to do something. bring the young man in, and then I'll talk to Steve. I talk to Steve, and of course he's, yeah, we're going to do something. So I bring the young man into Steve's office, and he was great. Steve says, "Tell me your story," and he did. And then the young man said, Steve showed him a few cars, you know, in a book, and you should take a look at these cars. You know, what do you think? And the young man got really quiet. He got really quiet, and I didn't quite understand, because I would thought, well, gosh, he's going to be happy about this. And he got very, very quiet, very pensive. And then Steve said, "Well, what do you think?" And the young man said, "Well, those cars are great, Mr. Taylor, but I don't." He had saved some
Mhm.
money.
Oh my
He had
gosh.
saved
Green
two
check.
thousand, 3,000, somewhere in there, doing Jimmy Johns,
Mhm.
right? And he said, "But I can't afford any of those cars that you showed me." And Steve, was a pregnant pause, and Steve said, "Hey, that's not a problem. Pick out the one you got. We're going to make
Oh
this
my
work."
God.
And Steve made up the difference for the car. Then he had transportation, and but I mean, that's a
Mhm.
personal,
Mm.
it's as personal touch as you can
Mhm.
get. Um, and those things, they there's a great book. I bet you ladies have read this book, and Brad probably has too. It's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and it's called
Oh,
Tipping
Mhm.
yes.
Point. And what he did is he examined, how does positive change occur in the United States. He wanted to know, is it some grandiose legislation that came down from Washington? And it can be. But he said, normally, when he studied change, good things and change in the United States, he said it's comes locally, local pockets of positive influence that filter out into the community, and then they inspire other people to, in a similar way, do positive things. So all the things that all of you are doing, local good, local acknowledgments, filter out into the community, and or all across the country, and it makes a difference in people's
You
lives.
bet.
Absolutely.
And the young man that you've all
Yes.
helped, first of all, he had the teacher saying, "I see you. I see
Yes.
Right.
what you're
Yes.
doing."
A hun-
You know, yeah, and
100%.
then taking it to you all, to
Mhm.
know that this group of people had been talking about your accomplishments and wanted to help you. But then
Right.
he's going to turn around, because this is just hopefully human nature,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
He's
Yes.
going to turn around
Yes.
and he's going to feel like he should pay that forward. Maybe not now, maybe
Right.
when
Absolutely.
he's in a better position.
Mhm.
But a young man, it's hard for grown adults to save two, three thousand
It is.
dollars, but
Right.
a young man in that position to do this is certainly driven. And yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, that is
I had a really
where
smart.
it starts. Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry,
that's
Tracy,
okay.
go ahead.
With communities, like you said, paying it forward. In fact, in the old Newsboys, Tom, we see a lot of people who come to us and want to help because they'll say, at some point in my life, I got a coat from the
hmm
Newsboys, and now they want to pay that forward. It's amazing how that works.
hmm
You know how many times I've heard that
Mhm.
story, Tracy, that an adult came up to me at an old Newsboys event and said, "I'm here because the old Newsboys helped me when I didn't have," you don't realize how many people grow up maybe not
That's
having things
right.
that we just take for granted: shoes and coats and boots and gloves. And we take that kind of for granted. And the old Newsboys, to me, is, that's the top of my list. Kristie, they don't take the only organization I know, they don't take a dime, a penny for anything that they do. It all goes to the kids that are in need for hats, gloves, shoes, boots. It's a remarkable organization. It really is. Tracy emceed their event last winter, and it was just fantastic. It
That
really
was a lot
was.
of fun where we showcased kids who benefited from these
Yep.
scholarships. And again, that organization represents people in the community coming together because they
hmm
care. They care about the kids, they
hmm
care about the community.
Right.
And that's really the point of what you're talking about, is really people coming together because they care and they want to make a difference in somebody's life. And I think you and Taylor, such a great example of that, because a lot of times, just truthfully, right, we don't think of bigger businesses being caring,
Right.
but we do in this town because we know
Right.
about Taylor, and it's amazing to see
Oh,
that.
that's very
Mhm.
kind. A really smart person once told me, he said, life is complicated, but it doesn't need to be as complicated. And I said, okay. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, if you just live with this, you're going to be successful and you're going to have a good life. And I'm going, okay, I'm waiting for it. I'm thinking, what is this? And he just said a very brief phrase. He said, do good and be good. And he said, that's it. He said, if you follow that, you're not going to have a lot of problems. And you know what it is? You try to do the right thing and you try to do good things. And I know you ladies believe this. The more people you meet, most people are good and they want to be involved with good things and they want to help folks. I think in the media, it's sometimes the bad things sell and people portray, people that are mean spirited or attacking. Yeah, there are problems and I get all that. But most people I've come across really want to help people. They want to do the right thing. Most Americans are pretty good people, have a heart, they care. And I think sometimes we give ourselves a bad rap as a country, as a nation. We've always cared and tried to help people, and nothing wrong with that.
That the irony in that, we talk about our members in our clubs all the time not wanting praised for what they're doing. They don't do it for acknowledgement or awards or praise.
Right.
But we try to reinforce with them, but they have to talk about what they're doing so people know those services are available.
Spot on.
Right. So they know the value of having these people in the community and know that they have somebody they can go to when they have a need.
That's so spot on, ladies. I have a lot of people that say, well, yeah, I like to do good things, but I don't want people to know about it. And I always come back and tell them, you're missing the point here. It's not a braggadocious thing to say, hey, we did this or that. What you're doing is you're putting something out there that other people can role model off of. It gets replicated and repeated. If you keep it to yourself and no one knows about these possibilities of doing these good things, I'll give you an example. One of the other companies, when this Do Right Awards that we were privileged to be a part of yesterday from the University of Toledo, Kripke, I think I'm saying it right. Kripke organization. Yeah, am I right, Trace? Is that it? Okay. So the boss of Kripke was Matt Kripke, and here's what he came up with. He one day was talking to one of his employees at lunch, and she looked like she was tired, and he said, "Boy, are you getting sleep, or are you okay?" And she says, "Well, not really." And he says, "Well, what's wrong?" And she had a young son, I believe. And she said, I'm in a bad neighborhood and, we can't go out of our house because of drive-bys and shootings. And, it makes us all apprehensive and we don't sleep well. And he went home that night and he thought, this isn't right. And he said, I'm going to do something to help my employees. So he started a program to help employees understand home financing, understand credit, started a savings program, and then he fronted the money for the homes that he bought for his employees.
Wow.
And he pays their mortgage for the first 3 years so they can get their feet on the ground and they have a steady financial platform. You talk about making a difference in people's lives. I mean, those opportunities are out there. You just have to be open and listen. And boy, when you can help people like that, what's more important? I don't know anything that's more important.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be anything grandiose.
Right.
Sometimes walking by someone, I'll never forget one time I was having a private moment in a hospital. Thought I was by myself, and someone came up and just touched me on the shoulder and said, "I'm going to pray for you."
Yeah.
But it's small gestures.
Yes.
Small gestures can even make someone feel.
Kristie, that's so spot on. Yes. Yeah, that's totally spot on. I think the American spirit, and again, I've taught media for a long time, and media does good things, but they've created a bad rap. I think that the American spirit is a good spirit and a kind spirit, and those kinds of gestures, you can see those every day in our city, in our town, across the country. people are genuinely kind for the most part.
Absolutely. Tom, I think this is good encouragement for these people that are doing those things in groups and communities like exchange clubs and other organizations to really showcase what they're doing so the community knows it's available, so they know the value of having
Yeah.
this group in the community because they have the power to create such positive impact if there's awareness, right?
Tracy, you're so spot on. Where they misinterpret,
Mhm.
it's not
Right.
self-aggrandizement. It's not bragging. It's not. You're telling the story because Steve had trepidation. I'll be very honest with you. In the beginning, he would say, "Geez, I don't know if I want, I don't want you to say that I did it or Taylor money or whatever." And I said, "Steve," I said, and he's a brilliant guy, but I said in this one instance, you're wrong. You're really wrong. This needs to be public, not for
Mhm.
you and your self-aggrandizement. It's to show other folks and other businesses that this is what can be done to make a difference in our community. And if you don't put it out there, it's not going to be replicated. So, and then he agreed, and now he understands that, yeah, it does make a
Most
difference.
definitely.
Well, thank you for everything you've done, on your own and through partnering with other
Yes.
organizations for this community. It has,
Totally
yeah,
my
it
honor.
has legs that spreads out to other communities in our area too. So
Mhm.
it's a bigger impact than you probably realize.
It is. Tom, thank you for
Thank you.
being an ambassador of good. You are so inspiring. It's amazing to learn
And
from you and to really have this opportunity to appreciate you because you just go around and create so much goodness and you truly are an ambassador of good. Thank you for sharing with us today.
my honor to be with you ladies. You ladies are great. And I didn't even swear. So there we go.
That's the after hours show.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom Cole, Community Outreach Coordinator for the Taylor Automotive family. Thanks to you and the Taylor team for all the good that you do in this community and beyond. And thanks to all of you for tuning in to Talk Exchange.